During all my years in school, I had some teachers and principals that were great, that did a great job, that knew how to teach, and were obviously in that profession for the right reason to try to positively mold the next generation. Like, you could tell that some of them did enjoy their jobs, and some of them genuinely cared about the students that they were teaching and wanted to genuinely help them. While I did have some good teachers and principals, and I actually had one guidance counselor that I liked, who I found to be a good guidance counselor, I got to tell you that many of the teachers and principals that I had, and the majority of my guidance counselors, they were pricks. They were scumbags that I did not care for. Like, I found a lot of the teachers that I had, they seemed to be in that profession for the wrong reason. Like, it seems like a lot of them were just motivated by the money and maybe motivated by the power as well, too. They enjoyed having authority over other people's children. Some of them just didn't really seem to care about the students they were dealing with. Some of them just didn't seem to care too much about their job. Like, it seemed like it was just a paycheck to many of them. Like, I remember, like, my grade 3 teacher, for example. In my opinion, I think she was a racist. In my opinion, she played favorites. She preferred the girls over the boys. She just didn't seem to enjoy her job, and, well, to put it quite bluntly, my grade 3 teacher was a bitch. And you get some teachers that, they make it seem like they're doing you such a huge favor anytime they do anything. Like, they just make it seem like such a big production. You got I also had some teachers that were lazy as hell. I mean, you had some teachers that if you did a test or an assignment and handed it in to them, they'd have it back to you the next day or 2 days or 3 days later. But then you had some other teachers that seemed to take them like 2 bloody months to get your assignments back to you. Like, really? You couldn't find a bit of time out of your schedule to mark those assignments? Or were you just plain bloody lazy and didn't feel like doing it? That's part of your job, so do it properly. I mean, there's some teachers that just got off on being bitches. They'd come in a bad mood. Maybe they were unhappy in their love life or whatever, so they just come take it out onto the students. I remember my music teacher that I had for grades 7 and 8. She was just a bloody bitch and a half. And I think when I was in grade 8 at that time, she happened to be pregnant. And I know that as a guy, I'll never understand what it's like to be pregnant. And I understand that, their hormones, a woman's hormones are, I guess, different when they're pregnant. I mean, I've been around many women that when they were pregnant, they were just fine. But this particular woman, she was an outright moody bitch. Like, I don't know what the hell was her problem, but She just absolutely got off on being a bitch. She should not have been around students at all. She had no right teaching. I don't know what was her problem. She must have had a very miserable life. But I mean, Mrs. Anderson, you were a total fucking bitch. Couldn't wait to be done with you. And not to mention, I had some principals, like the principal that I had during grades 6, 7, and 8. He was a total prick, total asshole. It was obvious that he was just there for a paycheck and the power trip. He just got off like he was a bully. Fine, I could understand if you got in trouble and went to the principal's office. Of course, it was the principal's job to set you in line, but this guy was just a straight-up bully. He just got off on power tripping and being an asshole to kids. Like, I wonder if he bullied the teachers the same way, too. But, I mean, he had no business being around students at all. I don't know, again, maybe he was unhappy with his home life. I don't know, maybe he was even an alcoholic. I don't know what his problem was, but he was a total prick. I couldn't wait to be done with Mr. Hill. In my opinion, he was by far the worst school principal I ever had. And when it comes to high school, I did switch schools a few times. So that resulted in me having some different guidance counselors. I had one guidance counselor in grade 11 that he was pretty decent. He was a good guidance counselor. I liked him. The rest of my guidance counselors were just assholes. Like, I had absolutely no use for most of my guidance counselors. Like, I had one guidance counselor that I straight up just wanted to punch in the fucking face. He was such a dick. Like, he actually wanted to, like, I admit I wasn't the best student. I didn't have the highest marks, but he wanted to, I got wind of it that he wanted to contact my parents and tell them, that he thinks I'm doing drugs, which was not the case. I wasn't a drug user then. I'm not a drug user now. Like, in my high school years, there was one time that I shared a joint with a couple of buddies at a school dance in grade 11. Other than that, I wasn't into drugs at all. At least not as a teenager. Yes, I went through a little phase when I was 20 years old where maybe for about 2 months I was smoking weed every day. But apart from that, yeah, I wasn't a drug user. I mean, the only drugs I've ever tried in my life are weed and hash, and I haven't smoked either of those two things in many years now. But this bastard wanted to call up my dad and tell him that he thinks I'm using drugs. Like, you lying sack of shit. I swear to God, I wanted to punch this bastard in the fucking face. I had no use for most of my guidance counselors. And it took me many years to figure out what the purpose of guidance counselors was. But the majority of them were just assholes. Like, it just seemed like their purpose in life was to make your life miserable. I heard so many stories about guidance counselors absolutely screwing up students' lives. And it seems like some school teachers, it seems like that's what they set out to do. You know, my hat's off to all the teachers, principals, and guidance counselors that actually do their job properly and try to help students out. As I said, I did have some of those that I have great admiration for. But to the rest of the guidance counselors and principals and teachers that were just fucking assholes, fuck y'all.